Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler-free review for FX's new TV series, Shōgun. Shōgun is set 400 years ago in feudal Japan at the time of the samurai. Shōgun is shockingly good. Shōgun is spectacular. I was overwhelmed by how much I enjoyed this series. It is a breathtaking, spectacular, mesmerizing epic. It is just so gorgeous to look at. Every single set, location, costume, just so beautifully brought to life. It feels like we're actually in feudal Japan 400 years ago. The acting is all top notch. Every single performance, from minor characters with one line to our main characters, are just so engaging and enthralling. The plot and the storyline, with its politics and its civil wars and its kind of thoughts about religion and this different new kind of moment for feudal Japan as the first Englishman comes, and maybe that's going to be bad for the Portuguese who are also there. I'm learning a lot of history, presuming that this is based on actual history. I had really high expectations for this show because I feel like we haven't got a show like this set in this time period, the time of the samurai. I feel like with a HBO or an FX or that type of kind of high prestige, kind of the golden age of television, we've done all the genres. I feel like we've done all the cool old school cinema genres. We've done pirates, we've done Vikings, we've done knights, we've done gangsters and more gangsters. We've done cowboys in space, we've even done cowboys that are robots. But now, finally, we get samurai. Obviously, excluding all the samurai shows that I just haven't seen, but for me, this feels like, finally, we're getting black sails for pirates. This show, Shōgun, does for the samurai. And I do apologize to, presumably, the 4 to 12 samurai shows I just haven't seen, but I haven't seen them. So I was like, cool, it's like The Last Samurai, but a show! And HBO, but not HBO. But FX, they're good enough, you know. Like, if we can't have a HBO Shōgun, I guess FX will be good enough. No, it's not good. It's the best. It's so compelling. It's so enthralling. It's so fascinating and interesting. I was in awe of this show. I just found it so interesting and cool. The acting is superb and just spectacular. Everyone is absolutely killing it. The plot is really interesting. I thought the dynamics of this new Englishman coming in and trying to figure out what's going on in this new land that he's come to, the Japanese people trying to figure him out, and just the way everyone's interacting. There were so many really cool translation scenes. The show has had the balls to actually let the Japanese people speak Japanese, which actually shocked me at first. I saw subtitles, I was like, oh my god, they're going to speak Japanese, they're going to speak Japanese in Japan. That's crazy. I didn't think they were going to do that. 70% of the dialogue is in Japanese, and they speak Japanese. Weird thing though, when everyone else is speaking non-Japanese, it's pretty much Portuguese, but they're speaking English, which is kind of weird. Like, a character's speaking Japanese, then another character's like, your Portuguese is pretty good. And I'm like, that is weird to hear, since it's being so, it's taking, it's doing it right with the Japanese. But I also kind of appreciate that we get a little bit of English in there. A little bit of time for me not to read, because I suck like that. There's a civil war situation going on between 5 guys, and everything has to do with kind of their religions and which people believe in which gods. It reminded me a lot of Vikings in that way. There's just a lot of kind of people that are side players that you can totally see becoming kind of major players later. It really did remind me of Vikings and Black Sails a lot, just in terms of just throwing you into this world of this big genre kind of thing, but almost immediately going, we're going to spend way more time on character than big sets and epic things, which I think is really, really good, because then when the big epic set pieces can happen, it's going to really pay off because you care so much about the characters. I think that's really, really good. But if I was to compare it to early Vikings or early Black Sails, I feel like there are moments or elements of those stories and or specific characters or something that early on, I'm kind of even further on, I just yeah, I would say 80% of this is pretty good. Not 100%, 80%. This show, Shōgun, 100%. 100%. Nothing in this show would I want to change or do differently in any single way. It is just so good. So captivating and interesting. I bloody love it. I bloody love it. One thing I do think some people might find a bit disappointing early on is that there isn't kind of a big epic action set piece. There isn't one kind of big epic two samurai facing off, like a big samurai one-on-one action sword kind of moment. There's like a little ambush scene in episode 2, and there's like an assassination scene. The ambush I thought was not wonky. It was fine, but it was barely anything. There's a big assassination scene that I think is done really, really well, and it shows that when the show is going to do action and violence, it's going to do it very well. And I just think they're going to build to those moments. It isn't a show where I was sitting there being like, oh god, stop with the politics. Stop with the thinking about religions and having character arcs and introducing us to really complex, interesting characters and all this minutiae of civil war in this Japanese thingy. Like, just get to the sword fighting. It never felt like that. It was so enthralling and engaging and interesting. I never felt like it wasn't action-packed enough, even though it is essentially actionless in terms of like, if you're like, oh, it's a samurai show, sure, wow, they're gonna be Kill Billing all over this place. No, not even a little bit. This is way more kind of, I feel like maybe like The Sopranos or like even early Game of Thrones, where it's like it's heavy on the dialogue, heavy, not on the exposition, but on like character motivations, the politics and the minutiae of that, and people's kind of trying to maneuver certain situations and things that are happening to our characters. It's all very intense. It's all very dramatic. It's all very serious. There's a few kind of funny little humorous bits that I very much enjoyed, but generally speaking, like a Sopranos and every show since The Sopranos that is this type of show, it is deadly serious and intense, but in the best way possible. It's perfectly paced, the tone is spectacular, all of it just works so well to create something where I just feel like I'm in feudal Japan 400 years ago. Even just the way people walk, and obviously I'm taking, I'm presuming, oh, well, they've done it like this, so that must be how they did it back then. But even just the way certain people walked and moved around and held themselves, I felt like there was just such kind of purpose to the direction and the acting. It was just gorgeous to behold. It makes me realize I need to go back and watch more old school samurai Japanese films, because I feel like there was a point where I was like, I'm watching Ran, I'm watching Seventh Samurai, and that other one where it's like, it's 3 stories from 3 different opinions. Ramadan. You know the one I'm talking about. It was The Last Duel, but the Japanese version beforehand. I just feel like I didn't watch enough, because I'm watching this being like, God, I love this time period. I just love the aesthetic, the samurai warrior kind of costumes and clothing. Everything just looks so beautiful and gorgeous. There's this really intense kind of foreign way they kind of act. There's a scene where someone's drowning, and almost instead of trying to save himself, he goes to kill himself, and it's just that kind of mindset. It's just so foreign to what we have here in Australia now, but it just is a really fascinating, interesting place and setting in time that is just so different. And I found the way they kind of showed us this world was just, it's so cool. And of course we get a little bit of the fish out of water of this Englishman who comes into town, and so we're kind of seeing all these things through his eyes, so that works really, really well. And he is very interesting how he's trying to like kind of wedge his way into this culture and kind of not die, essentially, which is, it's really good. It's just, honestly, the episode ended, there's only 2 out, so I've only watched 2. It ended, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk about it, but I am pretty annoyed I can't just binge this whole show, because it's so, it's just that good. I just want to watch more of it. It is just so crazy. I feel like every review I do, there's always negatives. I have no negatives, like literally no negatives. The only thing I would say, if I was being incredibly critical, and I was like, if I had to say something negative, there's one ambush shot where I'm like, I feel like some of those shots, I don't feel like that samurai sword properly like cut that guy. I feel like there's a bit of visual trickery that didn't really pay off, or maybe there wasn't enough visual trickery so I could kind of see it. But honestly, I've never cared less about anything in my life, because everything else works so well. It's just such a compelling story. Just honestly, the locations and the sets and the costumes are to die for. But not like actually, because you then want to watch the next episode with more costumes. Everyone in the cast is spectacular. I don't know any of them. I don't recognize any of them, except for our main character, who I definitely recognize, Hiroyuki Sanada. I apologize if I've botched his name. I usually just feel like I refer to him as that guy who's in literally every single mildly samurai-related American film ever made. The Last Samurai, I honestly, I feel like I had more examples in my head. Everything. It's pretty much Lost. He's in Lost. In everyone's favorite season of Lost. I say that as the biggest Lost fan in the world. It's the weak season. But he's in it, and that's not bad. It sucks that he's in the worst season and not in a better season, but that's really unrelated to this video. And he brings this very intense kind of like fatherly figure kind of vibe to him, which is like so good. He's particularly great, and you're kind of positioned to be more on his side than certain other characters, and kind of people under him are kind of also the characters I really, really enjoyed early on. We are only 2 episodes in, so who knows? They could do a Game of Thrones and I could hate him by the end. Who knows? But at this point, fantastic, perfect casting, but everyone else does a really, really good job, especially because like when I see him, I'm like, oh, it's the guy from The Thing. I already love him. So like he almost doesn't need to do anything, even though he's doing really good stuff. But everyone else just totally new to me, never seen them in anything. Already within 2 episodes, I love some of them. It's a good show. It's really shocking. I can't wait for next week. Probably won't do reviews for it every week, but that's because I'm very tired. So that's not because of the show, like, that's not because I don't think the show will be good enough for it. I'm just a very tired man all the time, and I don't know if I have the energy for it. Gosh, this is a good show, though.